The night the ocean challenged their vision. The ocean has a way of testing everything built near its edge. It waits, it watches, and when the moment arrives, it reveals whether a creation was made with respect or with arrogance. This hotel learned that truth in a single night that changed its destiny forever. It began as a dream carved into cliffs above a restless shoreline, a place where rooms floated over waves and guests slept to the rhythm of the tide. The idea was bold, almost defiant, to bring serenity to a coastline known for its storms. Designers imagined floor-to-ceiling glass, terraces that hovered above water, and pathways shaped like currents frozen in time. To understand why this project matters today, we need to return to the early days of its conception. Coastal retreats were evolving. Guests no longer wanted distant views of the ocean. They wanted immersion. They wanted to feel the water breathe beneath them, to sense the horizon as something alive rather than far away. The team behind this hotel wanted to give them that experience, and more. The first sketches captured the spirit perfectly, a structure that appeared to drift above the sea without ever touching it. But ambition carries its own weight. Engineers warned that the coastline was unpredictable. Storm surges could rise higher than any previous record. Wind patterns shifted without warning, and the rock beneath the cliff was stable, but only to a point. Still, the vision held. The team believed that if they could master the balance between exposure and protection, they could create a masterpiece unlike anything built before. Early models explored how waves refract against the cliff, forming natural pressure zones. If the building aligned with those zones, the ocean's power could dissipate rather than collide. This revelation shaped the design's first evolution. The hotel supports curved backward, echoing the flow of water around a boulder in a river. The glass panels were angled to reduce force during storms. Every detail blended engineering with poetry, turning risk into elegance. But the ocean is never static. Its character changes with the season, the moon, and the storms brewing beyond the horizon. As construction advanced, new challenges emerged. Materials corroded faster than predicted. Salt crept into joints that were supposed to be sealed. Even the sound of the waves changed, revealing vibrations that models had failed to capture. The team adjusted, experimented, pushed forward, yet a quiet dread began to form beneath the optimism, a sense that the ocean was studying them just as intensely as they were studying it. And then came the night when everything shifted. A storm unlike any the coastline had seen in decades began forming far offshore. And while the world slept, the ocean prepared to test whether this vision was worthy of standing above its depths. The storm announced itself long before it reached the cliffs. Instruments along the coast detected rising swells. Pressure maps showed an erratic pattern that defied prediction. The team monitored every update, watching the ocean gather strength in a way that felt less like weather and more like intention. As daylight faded, winds carved sharp lines across the water. Waves grew heavier, deeper, carrying a force that unsettled even the most seasoned engineers. The hotel's unfinished frame stood against the horizon, like a question waiting to be answered. Workers secured equipment. Doors were locked. Lights dimmed, and yet the storm still advanced. By nightfall, the wind howled through the scaffolding, turning metal pipes into trembling instruments. The sea below churned with relentless rhythm. Spray climbed the cliff face higher than any simulation had accounted for. The storm was rewriting every assumption the project had relied on. Inside the temporary command room, tension thickened. Engineers stared at monitors, tracking the stress on supports. The data shifted with each massive wave. Numbers flashed red, then stabilized, then dipped again. It was a fragile dance between design and nature, a dance no one could control. Still, they believed the structure could endure. It had been tested against extreme scenarios. It had survived earlier storms. It had been shaped by months of collaboration, correction, and compromise. Yet something felt different tonight. The ocean wasn't simply angry. It was purposeful. Close to midnight, the storm reached its peak. A wall of water rose far beyond the normal swell. A rogue wave formed from the chaos of wind and tide. It struck the cliff with a roar that shook the ground itself. The impact reverberated up the supports, sending a shudder through the entire frame. Bolts flexed, glass panels strained. Sensors screamed warnings. Panic rippled through the room. Engineers scrambled, analyzing every tremor. They expected failure. They braced for collapse. But instead, the structure bent. It moved with a force rather than against it, absorbing the impact with a resilience they had not fully understood until this moment. Yet relief was short-lived. The wave had revealed hidden weaknesses, joints that shifted too far, braces that held but quivered near their limit. The sanctuary had survived, but it had not escaped untouched. The ocean had exposed truths no blueprint could reveal. When dawn approached, the storm began to retreat. Winds softened, waves settled, but the silence that followed carried a weight heavier than the storm itself. The hotel still stood, but the meaning of its survival was unclear. It had endured one night. But what about the next? What about a future storm stronger than this one? The team realized they were not only building above the ocean, they were negotiating with it, and the conflict was far from resolved. The storm had issued a challenge they could no longer ignore, pushing them toward a decision that would define the fate of the entire project. When the storm finally passed, the cliffside felt strangely hollow, as if the ocean had taken something with it. The morning light revealed the damage in fragments. Bent brackets, warped rails, glass panels fractured like frozen lightning. The structure still stood, but its confidence had been shaken. What unsettled the team most was not the visible destruction, but the subtle shifts, the micro-fractures, the softened anchors, the quiet creaks that hadn't existed before. The sanctuary had survived the night, but it had been humbled, and its creators knew the truth they had tried to outrun. The ocean had shown them their limits. Engineers prepared detailed reports, each one revealing a new concern. The supports had flexed beyond acceptable ranges. Certain materials had reached stress points perilously close to failure. Even the acoustic signatures, the low, resonant hum that traveled through the structure, carried traces of strain. If this storm had hit months later, with guests inside, the outcome could have been catastrophic. The conflict that followed fractured the team emotionally. Some argued for rebuilding with heavier reinforcements, even if it meant sacrificing the light, floating aesthetic. Others believed the project should be paused, or even abandoned entirely, before the ocean delivered a storm they couldn't survive, and a small, stubborn group insisted the design could still work, if they learned from what the night had revealed. Every option came with consequences. Reinforcement meant altering the identity of the hotel. Pausing meant losing investor confidence. Abandoning the project meant admitting defeat in the face of nature, something no one wanted to accept after years of devotion. Meetings grew heated. Voices rose. Silence fell in its wake. The hotel felt like a living metaphor for the team itself, standing but shaken. Yet amid the tension, a new understanding emerged. Several members returned to the cliffs that evening, long after discussions ended. They listened to the waves, calmer now, almost contemplative. The ocean wasn't punishing them. It was telling them what it needed. It had shown them where the design was fragile, where ambition outpaced humility, where beauty had overshadowed survival. That realization became the turning point. Instead of resisting the ocean's message, the team embraced it. They studied the patterns of the storm, the angle of the rogue wave, the direction of the wind, the resonance in the supports. Every detail became a clue. If the structure could move with the water more fluidly, absorb impact more naturally, and release pressure instead of resisting it, then the sanctuary could evolve into something far stronger. But adaptation came with emotional cost. Parts of the original design, sketches people had poured pieces of themselves into, had to be abandoned. Dreams had to be reshaped. It was painful, like letting go of a story that they had carried since the project began. Still, the ocean had spoken, and now they had no choice but to answer. The team set out to transform the structure, not into a defiance of nature, but a dialogue with it. And as they began the changes, they sensed they were approaching the moment that would define whether the sanctuary could ever truly belong on this cliff, or whether the ocean would eventually reclaim the space as its own. The transformation began with a single question. What if the sanctuary didn't resist the ocean's force, but embraced it? The team reimagined every vulnerable point, turning weaknesses into pathways for movement. Supports that once strained under pressure were redesigned to flex with the waves. Glass panels were angled to redirect impact. The foundation was reinforced not with rigidity, but with layers that absorbed motion like the joints of a living organism. It took months of recalculations, revisions, and difficult compromises. But slowly, the sanctuary evolved. What had once been a fragile dream was becoming a structure defined not by defiance, but by resilience. It no longer fought the coastline. It harmonized with it. The true climax arrived with the second great test. A storm predicted to match or even exceed the ferocity of the night that had nearly ended the project. This time, they watched without fear, but with a quiet, determined hope. The ocean surged. Waves struck the cliff. Wind swept across the frame. But the sanctuary moved with each force, bending, releasing, breathing. Sensors remained stable. No fractures appeared. No alarm sounded. When the storm passed, the structure stood calm and unbroken, as if acknowledging that it now understood the rhythm of the sea. Relief washed over the team. But something deeper followed, a sense of gratitude. The sanctuary had not survived in spite of the ocean. It had survived because of it. The storm had revealed what the building needed to become, shaping it with a force that no simulation or model could ever provide. Visitors today describe the place as a quiet miracle, a refuge suspended between cliff and tide, where the ocean feels close enough to touch, yet never threatening. They marvel at the serenity, without knowing the struggles that carved it. They see beauty where the team once saw fear. They hear calm where the team once heard danger. And that is the enduring lesson of the sanctuary. Not that humanity can outsmart nature, but that true strength comes from listening to it, from adapting, from accepting that the world we build must live in conversation with the world we inherit. So what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again?